Hello everybody and welcome to Mike Trev's Brawl Deck Doctor. This is the first episode and hopefully we'll have many more in the future. Reddit user Drago Guerrero Jr. had posted this Brawl deck on the MTG Brawl subreddit, and it's their first Brawl deck and they're asking for some advice, what changes they could make to make it work a bit better. I played a heap of Brawl and I thought I would offer my 2 cents. And so here we go. First of all, I'd like to say I think this is a pretty good effort. I like the approach that they've taken. It seems that they've played the M20 pre-release, maybe a couple of drafts, got some good M20 cards they like, the elementals theme there, and they put together a deck, and I think that's the way most people should start building their Brawl decks. I think if you would like to have more fun playing it in a multiplayer environment, there are some things you need to think about, and that is the quality of your spells and creatures, and the efficiency of those spells and creatures as well. So these are some of the issues I see with this deck. There are too many creatures that are just bodies. They just have power and toughness, or that's the main attraction for them being in the deck. And that's not really good enough. You need your creatures to be doing more than one thing generally, unless that thing is winning the game. They need to be doing more than one thing when they come in. And likewise, your spells need to be nice and efficient, and too many of these spells are overcosted or don't have a powerful effect when it comes to multiplayer. Also, we're a little light on lands with only 21 lands currently, so the 7 of each basic and 2 of the into the battlefield tapped lands that gain us a life. So let's start off looking at the creatures. There are a lot of cards here that we're going to end up cutting. Things like Healer of the Glade, 3 life's not a big difference in multiplayer. Overgrowth Elemental, it's it's a tribal card, but that +1/+1 counter is going to get outclassed very quickly. Things like Boar's Claw, 7/7 is just going to get blocked. It has no form of evasion. It's okay in draft. It's not good in multiplayer. Even Thicket Crasher, when I build a deck, most of the elementals that we have aren't actually that big. So the trample could be relevant in draft, like I said, but in multiplayer, I think it's not quite good enough. You might find that with Omnath in play, you're getting it really huge and you do want to have the Thicket Crasher to make sure it's pushing through damage. I might be wrong here, but I took it out. Same goes for Elemental, great draft stats. A 4/4 in a multiplayer game is just a little underwhelming, and that kind of goes for Boreal Elemental as well. Immune Rock, Wave Crasher, it's got a cool ability. It lets you reset a creature, but I think the negative tempo there could be enough to make it not work out for this deck, and I don't think that we need it. And that goes for things like Fire Elemental and Scorch Splitter as well, just not enough impact on the game. We also have too many spells that are a little too clunky or inefficient. Things like your Tectonic Rift, your Sleep Paralysis, Reduced Ash. These are overcosted for their effect, and as such we need to cut them out. The other spells that are a bit better costed, like Infuriate, that's totally fine mana cost, but the effect is so minimal in a multiplayer game that I don't think it's worth having in the deck. That 3/2 is going to help you win one combat, maybe, so it's going to be a 1-for-1, and you've got 90 points of opponent's life total to deal with. That 3 extra power is not really going to make a difference. Anticipate, it's a fine spell, but I think we can do better. Same for Winged Words. If we had heaps of flies and it was 2 mana, I could see that going into some Brawl decks, but not this one. Befuddle, I don't think it's quite efficient enough, and same thing like as Infuriate, it's just not going to have a big enough effect on the game. I think those are all the cuts that I wanted to talk about, so let's have a look at the new deck. Okay, so this is the deck that I came up with. Let's start on the left hand side, get some of the boring stuff out of the way. So we have Circuitous Route, a great ramp spell. It's going to get us some of our gates into play. Also have Chromatic Lantern, Leafkin Druid, and Chandra's Embercat. In terms of card draw, we have Guardian Project. You're forced to play Singleton anyway, so it's going to be really good at drawing us cards. Icon of Ancestry, a little slow to activate, but the Anthem effect is nice as well. And if game's going long and you're flooding out, the 3 mana draw elemental is pretty much always going to hit, I would imagine, in this deck. Clark and Seer draws us a card, and Thunderkin Awakener gets our creatures back from the graveyard. Not many of them, but it gets the most important one. So let's go have a look at that one. Prison Reef over here. This is the crown jewels of any elemental deck in standard at the moment. The effect that it has is frankly incredible. It comes in at a 3 mana 1/1, but either draws you a card or ramps you a land, and it does that every single time another one of your elementals comes into play. So this is kind of one of the linchpins of the deck, and so I've built around it a fair bit here. We have a couple of clone effects like Replicate and Quasi-Duplicate and Spark Double. We also have a way to search it up in the form of Neoform, and then we have spells like Chandra's Acolyte, Scampering Scorcher, and Mirror March that can put multiple elementals into play at the same time on the same turn, and giving us multiple triggers of our Risen Reef. Yeah, moving over here, we have our Creeping Trailblazer, Thunder Drake, Leafkin Brawler that are all capable of kind of getting pretty big and smashing face. And we have the Goblin Smuggler to get things like Creeping Trailblazer and Leafkin Brawler through our opponent's defenses. This Wildfire Elemental actually belongs over here with its good old friend Chandra Spitfire. So I think Chandra Spitfire is an incredibly efficient creature in this deck for closing out games. Multiplayer games can go on long. Chandra Spitfire can cut those games down a bit. If they don't have flying blockers, it can definitely run away with the game. The way it's going to do that, hopefully, is if we have something like Electrostatic Field, which, whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, deals 1 damage to each opponent. So that's 3 opponents, 3 triggers. Chandra Spitfire gets +9/+0. Other ways are Cavalcade Calamity. This deck does have a lot of 1-drops, lots of all the tokens that it makes are 1-drops, and some of the creatures naturally have quite low power. This may actually lead us to cutting Icon of Ancestry at some point, because there's a bit of anti-synergy there, but I think I'd like to try it out and see how often that comes up. Wildfire Elemental has a similar effect as Chandra Spitfire, but it pumps your whole team, so it's going to be potentially quite impressive if we can go wide enough. Living Twister is a repeatable source of damage with that 1 under red ability, discarding a land card, dealing 2 damage to any target. With Risen Reef in the deck, we should hopefully have some spare lands lying around. Chandra, Novice Pyromancer, can also pump the whole team, but more importantly, she can go -2 to ping an opponent, buffing our Chandra Spitfire or our whole team if we have a Wildfire Elemental. We also have an Unsummon. This will be great for protecting us from big scary threats. This Incongruity, same thing, can turn pretty much anything into a 3/3 green frog. Disdainful Stroke is in the deck because we are going to be soft to sweepers, and this counters most sweepers in the format. It can also counter big scary creatures as well. Kasmina's Transmutation can turn one of our opponent's brawlers into a 1/1 frog, dealing with it permanently until they can get it off the battlefield. Teferi's Time Twist can protect our Risen Reef, or if need be, can protect our Omnath. Frostlinks over here, and Chillbringer. The effect is not the best, just tapping something down for 3 turns, but it can help us push through damage, and they are elementals. Flood of Tears is in the deck because although we are an aggro deck, this is probably not the most aggressive aggro deck, and occasionally you might need a bit of a safety valve or reset button, and Blood of Tears is going to let you do that. It will also most likely see you returning 4 non-token permanents to your hand, and that way it will let you put something onto the battlefield, kind of putting you ahead of your opponents that have to restart from scratch. Finally, onto the mana base. We're running 5 of each basic land. We're running all 3 of the guild gates. We're running both available scry lands, and to kind of round things out, we're running 1 Rugged Highlands and 1 Evolving Wilds. As you can see up the top, there are a number of elementals that I have not included in the deck. These are the kind of rare and mythic ones. The reason is I've tried to keep it relatively budget, aside from these shocklands, which are easy cuts if you don't have the budget for them. I think Muyanling could be good in the deck. Probably better in a mono blue deck, but could be good. All of the Cavaliers would be pretty busted in this deck. They all have great effects. I think probably the red one, in my opinion, is the best. Chandra, Awakened Inferno, would be a good fit in this deck as well. The -3 sweeping away our opponent's small creatures. The -X dealing with some of their bigger creatures, and the +2 just kind of putting a constant pressure on them. Things like Awakening of the Vihugazi and Nisu Who Shakes the World could be pretty cool. Unfortunately, they don't create elemental, they just turn one of our lands into elementals. That being said, if you're wanting to upgrade the deck, I think Nissa could definitely be included. I don't think Wake Root Elemental really fits in this deck. The 5 green mana is just too much of a cost, and a 6 mana 5/5 that has no other ability isn't really going to make the cut. Amplifier was cute, and I think it's a really cool card. Unfortunately, a lot of the creatures in this deck, their base stats aren't great. They really rely on some synergy to kind of get them going. Even if it sees like a Larvican Brawler, Amplifier just become a 4/8. That's really nothing to write home about. To get this bigger, we'd have to include some of the clunkier elementals around. And Runaway Steamcan is a powerhouse in mono red, but as you can see, we're pretty evenly split between the 3 colors. So I don't think it actually warrants inclusion, especially not with its kind of price tag created by its demand and standard. So that's it for the deck. I found it really fun building Omnath. I think it's a really cool card, and I hope you all enjoyed it. If you have feedback, please leave comments below or tweet at me. I'm at MikeTrev just about everywhere, and I'm hoping to make more Brawl content as the format becomes more popular. So if you have a deck that you want me to help tune up like this, or you have questions about good deck building, let me know. Yeah, hope you all enjoyed it, and I will see you some other time. Bye.